So we were trying to look for an alternative way that would make bioenergy accessible, because we think it's really important that, people who are citizens, people who are paying for our research, actually understand what it's about. So I guess part of the reasoning as well was that we'd seen similar work on climate change communicated before in a sort of graphic way, in a different format, but graphically. So we thought it would be a nice idea to try and get something that was accessible to the wider public, but actually conveyed the scientific content. The secondary reason was it was a really nice way to bring together 10 researchers who worked at different institutes on different things. And they had to talk to each other. And actually, I think a lot of them learned something from each other during this as well. And it was, I have to say, an absolute delight working with the artists, because they came at this from totally the different perspective to what we were expecting. So, we all learnt from this. We learnt from all this exchange of views, but hopefully what we've produced is something that is accessible and that will help people understand a bit more about why we think bioenergy has a role in the future. When you talk about bioenergy, you often, the debate can become very polarised, and you get people who think it's a really bad idea, should not be doing this, primitive, should not be done. And then you get people who think that this is, fabulous technology development, let's move forward, etc., etc. And the reality is that you end up then with a fair amount of conflict and dispute. And I've seen some of this in the media and elsewhere in recent weeks, where you get one set of people saying bioenergy's good, bioenergy's bad. The reality is there are lots of different types of biomass, lots of different types of bioenergy, and whether it's good or bad actually depends on the decisions you make as you go along the way. And that's one of the reasons that we felt it was really important to put that information in the public domain, so that people become aware of what can be good, what can be bad, the pros, the cons, and that we don't have this really simplistic, let's tar everything with the same brush, and that you get some of the complexities out. So when we talk about the narrative, the comic goes through a process where we envisage the future in different ways. And I think that's important. It's important that researchers think about what they're creating and what impact it might have, but also that people reading it and the public actually think about the fact that from where we're sitting today, we could go in a whole host of different directions on climate change, on the renewable technologies that we might choose, and they all are different and they all have different impacts. Nothing's perfect. As long as we want energy, then we will have to pay a price in some shape or form. Might be economic, might be environmental. The world will look different to what it does today. But I think people realising that there are choices there and that there is that sort of shades of different options out there is actually the really important bit of the narrative for me. That it's not black and white. You've got lots of options, you can pick them. And that there's something available there that might suit different situations.